All right, we're off to a little bit of a late start. The traffic in Montreal, downtown, is very similar to New York City. But despite the tardiness, we are here on NYCFC Views as New York City playing at CF Montreal tomorrow evening with an opportunity to finish in the top four. They still need a little help. We'll see what we can come up with here over the next 45 minutes or so. It's NYCFC Views Live.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy.
Tiene tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer!
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right, I've also got Raquinho cards. I'm Glenn Crooks. There's Roberto Abramowitz. So we'll be doing your live commentary on the radio, digitally, however you want to pick it up on the New York City FC network. And that'll be tomorrow. All games kicking off, the Eastern Conference games, all kicking off simultaneously at 6:10 p.m. And everyone's wondering where New York City will play their home game or home games, depending in that opening best of three. Look, they're trying to get into fourth place so they can have the home field advantage. We'll know by the end of tomorrow where that stands. But I'm looking at the Mets. So this is live. So I don't know how many Met fans are in our New York City FC audience, but maybe they're watching both at the same time. The Mets lead the Dodgers 3-0. It's in the bottom of the first, so I'm not sure what happened, but something happened favorable for the Mets, who trail 3-1. The Dodgers look like the better team, but we'll see what happens tonight at Citi Field. So Citi Field would ostensibly be available, although there might be other dilemmas which we're not even aware of. Roberto, I just thought we're live, so we might as well give updates on the baseball. The Yankees, after an incredible ending to the game against Cleveland last night, it ain't over till it's over. Yogi Berra, former Yankee great, it ain't over till it's over. And that's the great part about baseball, and it was never more personified than the end of that game yesterday.
So what happened was that Alonso homered. Wow, long one too, 432 feet. Lindor and Nimmo scored, so 3-0 Mets.
All right, good for Alonso, good for the Mets. They've been a great story. They have their own little mascot, Grimace, and we have Raquinho. And I still have some more Raquinho cards left. So I want to I'll bring up. We had 4 winners last week. Cards were sent out. If you went on social media today, you might have seen a couple of them. Alexis and Herman both put nice little things out with a picture of Raquinho, and that they like the podcast and more people should tune in. They said something about actual good information coming from this podcast. So I don't know how that all works, but
we got every so often it might happen.
Yeah.
We might spill the tea.
So this is it's decision day is only decision day really in the Eastern Conference, where you have 4 teams vying for the bottom 2 spots, and one of them is Montreal. So this is what New York City is going up against tomorrow night, is a team that either gets a draw or a victory, Montreal, and they're in the playoffs. When earlier this year, I mean, it's been an odd season for them, but lately, like New York City FC, they've gotten favorable results and have put themselves in this position. And then New York City, Roberto, have to win in order to have a chance to get into that 4th spot. They need some help from Atlanta against Orlando. And so how do you think it's going to go tomorrow?
New York City has never lost in Montreal. The only road game that New York City ever lost to Montreal was in Orlando.
Love it. That's great.
It's 2019. How about that for a trivia question? So, so New York City owns Stade Saputo. They've never lost here. And so it's going to be an interesting game.
Including the playoffs, right? That's
3-1.
Yep.
That was Wilfred Nancy's last game from Montreal, and they had been playing well at that point. And New York City not only wins here, normally scores a lot too. And then lately, New York City's been playing very well. They won their last 3 games, scored at least 3 goals in each of them. So we'll see if the 2-week window affects them.
Yeah, so the overall record is, I had a bunch of this stuff here, and the New York City is 12 wins, 2 losses, 5 draws in the overall series. But the thing that really stands out, and that includes the playoff game, the 3-1 win at Saputo, 36 goals for, 14 against for New York City against Montreal. I mean, it's been a really, really lopsided series. And you've got Montreal. Montreal doesn't score a lot, man. They do not score a lot. Now, we know New York City, the way they're playing this year, are leaking more goals or giving up more goals, conceding more goals than they have in the past. But look how many more they scored.
Yeah.
Well,
that's obviously helped.
Yeah. And that's kind of what they anticipated. The way they wanted to play, they would hopefully score more goals, which they've scored, I think, in the neighborhood of almost 20 more goals this year. But
they anticipated it, but they didn't anticipate it the way it came out. They anticipated this with Monsef Bakrar getting a ton of goals, and that actually hasn't happened. And Alonso Martinez has stepped up for this team, and he's got 19 what they call goal contributions now. God forbid they say points, but they're goal contributions between 16 goals and 3 assists so far. And if he gets an assist or a goal, then New York City has their first 20-20 tandem in a year, because Santi Rodriguez is already at 20.
Yeah, so it's never happened before. It's pretty cool. And and Martinez, his importance, out of the last 24 goals scored since early July, Martinez has been part of 11 of them, 10 goals and an assist. So, I mean, you can't overstate his contribution. And they're coming off 3 wins in a row on the trot, leading into the international break, or New York City FC. Now, there's a common denominator here, Roberto, and that common denominator, there's more than one, but one of them is Justin Haak in the starting 11. Now, he's been a member of this squad. This is his 6th season as a homegrown. He's only started 25 total games for New York City FC in that 6-year period, and 5 this year, including the last 3. Here's Nick Cushing, the head coach, the gaffer, when it was presented at his weekly presser by Oliver Strand of Hudson River Blue about Haak, how he's played well, and what do you think? Will he be in the lineup? And here's what Nick had to say.
Without naming the team, I think when you give the opportunity to guys, all season, the communication to the guys is that if you work hard and prepare yourself and make sure that you're ready, you'll get an opportunity. And then when you get the opportunity, you take it, you stay in. To go back on that now on game 34, I think the locker room would kill me. So we had some really high performers. Justin has been top, playing at central defender in 2 difficult games, went in the midfield against Nashville, and I agree was one of our better players. So he's done everything he can to give himself the best chance of starting. I think it'll be difficult for me to take him out.
So we'll see Haak in the starting 11, one would assume, based on those comments. And it's not going to be in the midfield, Roberto. You've got James Sands back from a yellow card suspension. Keaton Parks is healthy and ready to go, and he's been really valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not sitting Maxi Morales for a game like this.
No.
So we would expect Haak will play left central defense next to Thiago Martins. I think that's what it would be, like where he excelled in the absence of Burke Reeser, who was injured.
Absolutely. And I think that's where we're going to wind up seeing him. And I'm glad for him. So glad, because, I mean, here's somebody who was on the fringe of the team during so much of the season and was, and we've mentioned this before, he was probably on his way out of the team to try to find him someplace else to play. And they needed him, and he came back in, and he's been very, very good. He's been absolutely solid, and he's played in so many different positions, and he's done a good job no matter where they put him on the field. And so It's hard to take him out. Absolutely.
Yeah, and he's Look, he's good in the air. He's not afraid to try something if it's close to the goal. He's got 1 career goal, that big one against Columbus last year in a 1-1 draw at lower.com field. But yeah, no. So, but I think the thing that really stood out about Nick's comment is that the locker room would kill me because he's rewarded. Kevin O'Toole, if you go on my podcast On Frame, spoke to him yesterday. I'm going to run some clips from that tomorrow during the day before the game. But I spent about 12 minutes with Kevin, and I asked him about Christian McFarlane and how McFarlane essentially won the job back from him. Now, it's because he was injured, but it's the same thing. If McFarlane was doing well, the team was doing reasonably well in that period of time, so you're not going to make the replacement. And then Kevin, and he admitted he kind of had to earn the trust back and earn the job back, which he did.
Absolutely. And Burke Risa probably is going to have to do that same thing at this point when he gets a chance. And, there'll be points in the game if New York City is nursing a lead or, in the last 10, 15 minutes of the game, we'll probably see Risa come in and they'll probably play 5 in the back and things like that. So it's going to be an interesting way to finish off the season. And then we're going to see, once the new season begins, and New York City is either playing Orlando or Cincinnati, because those are the only 2 choices, who that starting 11 is.
Yep. Hey, look what I got. Raquinho cards. So I'm going to give out 2 more today to one person. And so, look, if you're watching this podcast in delay on recording, you're not eligible. Only people watching live, people who are either watching the Mets and listening to us, or don't care about the Mets and they're waiting for the Yankees, or don't care about either and they just like their footy. Then the first person on YouTube to chime in, we'll see it in our comment section, and then you got to leave Aniello your address, and I'll send them out. I mailed all 4 out last week, and they were all received, and everybody's very excited with their Raquinho cards. And New York City's on the road here, so this could perhaps be good luck charm. We'll see. I don't know.
Good luck with that. We'll see. They haven't needed much luck in Montreal. They just come here and they win. They own the place.
It really is. It really has been fascinating. And Stade Saputo's I call it a cute little stadium. It is, but it's a really, really nice environment. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing, and I'm bummed out that I don't have an answer for this. I really am. And I'm gonna text somebody now once again to try to find out. This is going to be their 17th consecutive sellout. As you know, Roberto, you play 17 home games and 17 on the road. They're selling out all of their games. Now, I remember there was a bit of a ticket fiasco in the preseason time because of the whole Messi thing and how they were pricing tickets and making them available. So I'm really curious to find out if how much Messi played a role in these tickets in them selling out like this, because it hasn't happened before. They haven't sold out every game in a season in their history. So I just
are you implying that people had to buy season tickets in order to be considered for the game that Inter Miami played here? Is that what you're implying?
I'm implying it, but I don't have factual. I don't know if we're going to come up with it. I'm telling you right now, I'm texting a guy that's going to be taking me to dinner tonight as soon as we're done with this podcast, and I'll see if he knows. Let's see, and then I'll just put Messi with a question mark.
That's good. Good to know that you've got a date for dinner tonight. Actually, I do as well.
Yes,
I do as well, with Joe Tollison. So, who's going to be the voice of the game on Apple?
Yeah, everybody will be excited about that. That's a New York City fan. I know. And I would like to at least mention, because in relation to this, it was Joe and Ian Joy who were the voice, the television voices, and the ones that were, more people watch the television than listen to our radio broadcast. We wish that people understood who we were and what we can do, but it's understood. Those were the hometown commentators. We are now your only hope for hometown commentary, myself and Roberto and our partners. And I want to thank Chris Campbell in the outfield. because they featured our radio, and I know it was on the English side, and a lot was about myself and Maddie, but in essence, it's focusing on the importance of radio and your hometown commentary, which is your only way to get it, only availability for that. And you can, and the idea is you need to sync up the video and the audio, or just listen to the audio if you happen to be out and you can't watch. And just, I appreciate them making it, kind of putting a nice shining mark on radio, and also letting people know about it, because I'm sure somebody will read that story and go like, wow, there's games on the radio? I didn't know that. Unfortunately, that.
Well, digital radio. We're not on traditional radio. We're on digital radio.
Yes.
It's newfangled.
It is, and
for two old guys.
Yeah, but I can figure it out. In fact, I saw an old college friend for the first time in many, many years, and when I got home, when I landed home, he sent me a little text saying, hey, can I listen to this game on October 19th? So I sent him the link. There's a link, nycfc.com/radio, English there, Spanish there. Have fun. Anyway, that's
but by the way, we should mention that there's an asterisk to all of this in your case, not in mine, is that they've lost your radio equipment.
But we found it.
Oh, you did find it?
They found it was on its way to Stade Saputo by accident, and unfortunately, my case resembles some of the other cases that they use. You should. I mean, I think people that don't have the luxury that we do of going on the road, but seeing all the people operate, all the equipment, coaches, and the amount of stuff that, the kit man, all his responsibilities, it's really, and at home, it's even more crazy because you don't have the permanent home. So generally Citi Field, Yankee Stadium with Red Bull Arena, they've got to drag all those accessories and assets and additions, but this is mostly just equipment. It's really crazy. Anyway, my bag got mistaken for, I don't know.
Probably maybe socks or something like that.
Santi Rodriguez's uniform, and it went to Stade Saputo. But it has been found.
I'm happy to hear that.
The response I got regarding the fact that the Stade Saputo has sold out 17, including tomorrow, 17 consecutive matches for the first time ever, the response was Messi mania. So there is some coordination of those Messi purchased tickets that also somehow funneled their way into being part of the full season. I don't know.
Well, we'll try to find out. Anyway, capacity there, 20,341.
Okay. Now, here you asked a good question at the presser of Nick, and then I followed it up because New York City wants to finish fourth, and you asked if he'd be scoreboard watching, and however you phrase that, to see what's going on with Orlando hosting Atlanta, because that's the key game. And he said, well, I won't be, which obviously meant that others would. And then I followed up by saying, all right, let's say you're up 3-0 on Montreal because New York City has to have a +4 differential tomorrow if Orlando and Atlanta tie. So my question to him was, if you see that it's tied and it's getting late, would you make some sort of tactical adjustment and really be fierce trying to get that fourth goal? And here's what his answer was.
Yeah, of course. If there's a way that we can get into the top four, at the start of the year, I've said before about setting crazy targets. I don't say that because I don't believe in them. I set the target at the start of the year, and the target was one that I really believed in. We've got a really ambitious group and a real ambitious staff around here, front office, coaching staff, medical staff. Everybody at the start of the year had a huge desire to improve on last year, but also a huge belief that we could do something ambitious, and that was top four. So if in that last minute there's an opportunity to get in the four and it's play another striker, we need another goal, we'll do it.
All right, there you have it. And it's now it's 3-1 Mets up on the Dodgers for those who are keeping track.
On a wild pitch.
Oh, well, so
Do we have the
That-
dates of the
That's not
playoffs, right?
But hold on. Let's follow up on what he said. I mean,
Okay.
and it's certainly not unexpected that you would do that, because it is meaningful. So if you lose the game 3-1 because you're trying to push forward or do something, excuse me, if you win the game 3-1 instead of 3-0, it doesn't make any difference. So you might as well go for the fourth in that scenario. That's all. So I guess it's not a great revelation, but I don't know if. Some coaches are superstitious about looking at other games. They just want to play their game, and I've heard that before too.
Okay, so we were looking at the playoffs a little while ago, right? We had the dates,
Yeah.
right? And one of the dates that we have to be concerned about is on the best of 3 series. So if New York City winds up in the 4th position and plays Orlando, who is in the 5th, who would be in the 5th position at that point. If it goes to game 3 and the Mets are eliminated and everybody's going like, oh, great, the game's going to be at Citi Field. No, it's not. Because Dominican baseball has scheduled on November 10th, they have their Winter League series between the Los Tigres del Licey and Las Águilas Cibaeñas. And that game will take place on Sunday, November 10th. It is billed as, and listen to this, Glenn, the Titans of the Caribbean, the rematch.
I'd like to go. I mean, it sounds exciting,
It
except
will be. I mean, the stadium will be full of Dominicans, which is, means my neighborhood is going to empty out.
Well, wait, but November the 10th, this opening best of 3 series will have been completed.
It ends November 10th.
November 10th. Not necessarily. It could be another day.
It says October 25th to November 10th.
Right. So but not the only game on October 25th is Intermessi. That's the only game that's being played on. It's a standalone.
Right. So I'm just saying, if it goes to a 3rd game, and the Mets are done, right?
Yeah.
There's a chance. Well, obviously, I mean, I don't know how many they would need 3 days, so they would have to play on Thursday.
Yeah.
On Thursday the 7th? That would be the latest that they could play if it's at Citi Field.
All right. Well, that's interesting. It also it kind of rolls into what we saw getting off the plane or while we were flying. I can't remember who sent it to whom, but the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Oh God.
They're fighting to finish 8th so they can host that I guess wild card game, we'll call it. 8 versus 9, and 8 would host 9, obviously. So if Vancouver finishes 8th, of course they're going to play BC Place, right? No, as you told me, Roberto, there's a Supercross event on October the 26th, which takes several days to prepare the grounds.
Well, yeah, they got to bring in a ton of dirt.
So this is, and we've heard cat calls about the New York City Football Club sometimes that they've had 7 total homes. Okay, so that's in their history because of some of these things that are previously scheduled that they don't have control of, and that would be the case here for the Vancouver Whitecaps. So you said they're moving to Providence Park if they have to if they
play Portland, they're going to play the game in Providence Park.
And they would play Portland because Portland's already clinched 9th, right?
It's something to that effect.
No. I think Portland is definitely 9th. So
if they clinch 9th, and they could still. I was looking at the standings before. Let me see if I can find this quickly here. And they could still potentially jump Minnesota. So okay. Portland has 46. Yeah, Portland's locked in at 46. Well, they could actually go. And Vancouver loses, Portland wins, then, they would have the 8th spot and Vancouver would be 9. But Vancouver still has a chance to make it to, let's see where, to the, they can make it to the 7th spot by winning their game and Minnesota losing theirs.
Okay.
Because they would have, then at that point, they would have 50, Minnesota would have 49.
Yep. And nobody listening right now cares about the Western Conference. That's my guess, number one. But I think the best part of this story, this I care about, is that Vancouver could host Portland at Providence Park. Is that what you're saying?
That's what would happen.
Gosh, oh my! I can't. That is just wild. And we know something like that could, I know we were in discussions ourselves between you and me about what would happen if New York City had to host the Red Bulls at Red Bull Arena in a playoff situation. And would New York City FC say that ain't happening, man? We are going to. We'd rather play at the Moon than Red Bull Arena against.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I would think that would happen. I think that they take that game out of New York City someplace.
Okay.
If that would happen. I mean, both teams are qualified for the playoffs. And so there is a chance that something like that could happen if they can get by Columbus and New York City, either plays Orlando and Cincinnati. So,
all right.
Well, I think it would be by that point. I think I think Yankee Stadium would be available.
That's good too, because the World Series is going to be done by then. So, so this could all be for naught, but it is. I think it's entertaining to discuss, but it also just puts a light on the fact having your own stadium is and being in control of it is how important it is. And this is professional level. You don't want to be bopping around in such an important game. You just or playing your opponent at home at their place. That is just. That's
I mean, it's. I feel for the people in Vancouver and the fans and everything. They set a couple of records this year for like the largest attendance, and and then all of a sudden they may not have a home game.
Roberto, I looked ahead. Remember, so if let's say Vancouver finishes 8th and hosts Providence at Providence Park and then beats them, because I'll be rooting heavily for Vancouver in that game. Definitely. I mean, come on, and. And they upset their way through to get to the MLS Cup final, where they host the number 9 team from the Eastern.
Montreal.
They host a game against Montreal. 2 massive upsets to get to the final. They would not be able to host at BC Place because Taylor Swift has a concert. Is 3 dates: December 6th, 7th, and 8th, and the MLS Cup final is the 7th. So they would not be able to play. They would not be able to.
You're not displacing Tay-Tay. No, you're not displacing her. That's not happening.
Well, if you can't, well, never mind. I won't say it that way. Never mind. I'm done.
And
I don't want to be done.
Don't get us canceled, Glenn. Please.
I don't want to get us canceled. Inter Miami can win. Now this is irony. I like the irony here. Okay, irony. Okay. Because the New England Revolution right now hold the single season points record of 73 under Bruce Arena in 2021. And it's Inter Miami poised to break that record on decision day against who? Who do they play?
In New England.
They play New England. Isn't that ironic?
And they play them at home.
Yep. So they beat New England. Messi, according to Tata, will be in the squad, but it sounds like he'll probably be on the bench after playing for Argentina and things like that. And
played really well for Argentina and in that blowout of Bolivia.
Hat trick. Did you see that stat? How many hat tricks he's had in his career? It was incredible, actually. I forget what the number was.
Oh, he's incredible.
But what's also incredible is that Erling Haaland's not even that far behind. That's what's really incredible. I mean, he's far behind, but I mean, he's considering the amount of time he's been around. Just in terms of hat tricks per 90 minutes or whatever stat that would be.
Haaland is a machine. He's just an absolute goal-scoring machine.
Love it. So New York City FC 2 qualifies for the playoffs for the first time in MLS Next Pro. This is the 3rd season of MLS Next Pro. Philadelphia will host New York City FC at Subaru Park. It's the first time Philadelphia has been in the playoffs. Now, Philadelphia in this MLS Next Pro, I don't know what you think. I don't know how much we talked about this, Roberto. The format they have for choosing your playoff opponent in the opening round. And so Philadelphia was in a position to do that. I think they finished 1st or 2nd in the conference. So they chose New York City FC, even though there were teams that finished below New York City that they could have chosen from. So we happened to bump into Matt Pilkington yesterday, the New York City FC 2 coach. and he just kind of smiled. And he said that Marlon LeBlanc, who is the coach of Philadelphia, how did he put it to? He said something publicly that made it sound like, well,
what he said is that we wanted to play our biggest rivals, and that we would have picked the Red Bulls had they been there. And then
that's it. Good.
because
Thank
they
you.
weren't, it was New York City because it's a better show.
Yeah, and they could draw more people. So they wanted New York City to get more fannies in the seats. Apparently, they get pretty good crowds at Subaru Park. They've done a good job there of getting people out, and that's his way of avoiding the. We think we can beat them.
Yeah,
that's
by
why
the
we
way,
picked them. We think we have a better chance of beating them.
Look, it's bulletin board material, and that's what it's
Yeah.
for. And by the way, I like it. I like it a lot because we're talking about it, and that's what it's supposed to be. This is all entertainment. Yes, it's business, and it's very, very important in a lot of ways, no doubt about it. But this is the entertainment business, and this makes it entertaining. So I'm fine with it. I think it's cool, and bring it into all sports, and let's create chaos.
I asked Nick Cushing about it in our pregame show tomorrow before the game at 5:45, just like Roberto, Eastern time, and he didn't avoid the question, but he kind of went right through it without too much discussion. I have a feeling that he's not a massive proponent of it. Here's Riquinho. No one. So we need a live. All you have to do is go on YouTube. You can go on my Twitter at Glenn Crooks or at SickPod NYCFC and just say you want the two Riquinho cards, but you have to do it while we're live. We're live right now, and if you're watching it on Saturday, you're watching this on Saturday, or you're watching this later on Friday night, you're not eligible. You have to be. I'm only giving out to people that are watching us live. So chime in before the end of the show, and we're getting close. Roberto, let's kick it around. What do you say?
Let's go.
U.S. men's national team. What do you think, Roberto? I mean, 2 matches now under Mauricio Pochettino and old Mexico. Does Mexico now have the upper hand on? It was 2-0. We know that, but does Mexico now have the upper hand on the U.S.?
No, they don't. New York City. The U.S. national team didn't field anything close to their first team in this game. I believe there was like maybe at least 6 starters that were out for this game. I saw Alexi Lalas went on a rant that how dare you take time off and when you're playing Mexico, and I understand the passion behind that, and I get it.
Not just Alexi. Just to add on to it, not just Lalas. Casey Keller, he went bonkers in a nice way, but he made a long argument, and Tim Howard put something up today. And I will just ask you this because I want to hear more about your opinion on this. Did you see my response to Alexi Lalas?
I did not. I did not see it.
My response to him was, is it possible that releasing players like Pulisic and McKennie was hurt. He wasn't going to play anyway, I don't think.
Right.
And Ricardo Pepi, do you think that's partly because of the developing and the continuing development of your relations with the clubs, which is vital in the international process? And let me just say one more thing. On my SiriusXM show, I interviewed Steve Toshkin. He was my guest last week. He's not a name that everybody in the public's going to know, but he's the physical performance coach, was under Greg Berhalter at Columbus. We're going to get to Berhalter too before we close. At Columbus, and also with the U.S. men's national team for 5 years. Okay?
Right.
And he said one of his most important jobs was opening the line of communication with the performance coaches of the other teams so that they kept good track of their players, took good care of their players, would release players early at times because of the data and analytics they had, but because they opened this portal where these clubs could look inside and see what was going on with the players. And if I look back at the Greg Berhalter era, and you can look at it any way you want, but how he developed relationships with the clubs and how they were rooting for the U.S. in Qatar, I think is beyond admirable. And so to Alexi Lalas and Tim Howard and Casey Keller, it's not as easy as you guys are saying. You're making it sound so simple, and it's because of your blood hate for Mexico. Let's face it.
Well, that's what rivalries are built on. But also the thing is that in the times that they were playing, right, especially Lalas, right, they weren't playing as many games as they're playing now. And so they've got to be able to physically, the amount of games that these players are playing is just quite a few between national teams, between club teams, and then you've got cups and everything else. And so, these guys need a break every so often. So, it's, nobody likes to lose to Mexico if you're an American fan, just like Mexicans never like to lose to the U.S. But look, Pochettino right here has a job to do, and his most important job is to figuring out who his guys are going to be, who his 23 is going to be. So this gave him an opportunity, right, to look at guys who maybe he wouldn't have been able to look at had he had all of the starters, right? Balogun, Pepe went home after he scored a goal against Panama. Tim Weah wasn't around. Adams wasn't around. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are missing for the team. So you got a lot of guys, and basically what these guys are doing is that he's giving them enough rope to hang themselves, and a couple of guys probably did that.
Yeah. Well, that's the way I'm looking at it too. I just have never gotten that crazed about U.S.-Mexico in a game that it doesn't matter, folks. Now, Casey Keller's point was you don't have many windows of opportunity to really, get your system in with your best players. That kind of thing is understood. But I'm going to go back to the relationships with the clubs, and who better to understand that than Mauricio Pochettino, right? I mean, who had on the clubs he's coached most recently a lot of national team players.
Oh,
and
God,
had to develop those relationships. Now, how about Greg Berhalter saying today, he introduced recently, yesterday as a Chicago Fire head coach, saying that he's happy for Pochettino, thinks it's a great choice, and he wanted to make it clear that we have an open line of communication with anybody from the Chicago Fire who he might need an update on or anything like that. So it was nice to hear that from Berhalter.
Absolutely. I always thought Berhalter was a class guy. I mean, whatever you think of his coaching or how he got the job or anything, and I know there are a lot of people that believe that the only reason he got it was nepotism. I don't believe that, but
well, it helped.
What's that?
It might have helped.
I mean, it might have. I don't know. I wasn't there for the conversations, and if it did or not, we can speculate all we want. We weren't there for the conversations. So, I'm happy that he's taken that position. It just basically shows what a good, quality guy he is. I don't think we're giving him away, Glenn.
No, I know. Hey, so now Berhalter. I thought this was interesting. He took the dual role of sporting director, head coach of the Chicago Fire, which you don't see much of anymore. Peter Vermees is still in that position, but this was his response when somebody asked him at the presser, and it was interesting because he did both roles with Columbus Crew. So listen to what he says about having that dual role again now with the Chicago Fire many years later. This is Berhalter.
Learned a lot of lessons from the Columbus days, working 6 a.m. to 10 at night every day for 5 years. It aged me. That's why I don't have as much hair as I used to have. And you guys can go back and check the pictures out to prove it. But in all seriousness, I realized, how I need help. And really part of the alignment part with Joe was saying, okay, we want to create this executive leadership team that helps shoulder some of the responsibilities, whether it's player transfers, player negotiations, player recruitment, performance, strategy. So it's really about creating a team around us that we can all pull the same direction and to try to be successful for the club.
Yeah, and that's the only way you can survive in that position now. So he'll get a lot of help, and that's what happens with Peter Vermees as well. When he found out that it was too difficult a job, so as long as you have the support of the owner, sitting right next to him, then you have a chance to make it work. So Berhalter back at MLS, and we're wondering if Patrick Vieira will be back at MLS. It's very quiet in Atlanta, as far as who their next coach is going to be, and we know that
He's a candidate.
It seems that that Patrick is or was a candidate for that job. Let me see. We got a couple of minutes. Is there anything else I wanted to add? Well, thinking of Atlanta, so they're getting the 2028 Super Bowl at Mercedes-Benz. So Arthur Blank he's got some things going here.
Yes, he does.
Club World Cup next year, hosting games there. And then World Cup 26, they have, I think, 8 games at Mercedes-Benz. And they're going to host the NCAA Final Four on the men's side in 2031, looking way ahead. But Atlanta is and then U.S. Soccer is making their home in Atlanta. So Atlanta has become one of the capitals here.
Oh, well, without a doubt. Also, by the way, the Fire, speaking of the Fire, they play at Soldier Field. And in that same press conference, Joe Mansueto said that they were looking for a place to be able to build another soccer-specific stadium. So there was a time where they thought that they were going to stay at Soldier Field and it was going to be reduced in size, and that's where they're going to wind up playing. But now it seems that he may be changing course on that possibility, as the Bears are also looking to move out of Soldier Field, and I guess they're back in Arlington, in Chicago, which is a suburb, and looking to build a facility there.
Well, another soccer-specific stadium that to be downtown. I mean, they're only going to build it downtown, I would assume.
Right, because they have one in Bridgeview. It's really nice.
They already have one.
Too.
Exactly, they already have one there. And the Big Ten men's quarterfinals and Final Four, it was just announced today, is going to be played there. Was it Toyota Park, or is that what it's called?
SeatGeek Stadium.
SeatGeek Stadium. It used to be.
It used to be Toyota something.
All right, SeatGeek Stadium. Yeah, that's what it is. All right, Roberto. Very good. Well, we landed. We drove as fast as we could. Well, we weren't driving. As we could to the hotel so we could do this for you. And it's NYCFC Views Live. If you're watching us on tape or tape delay, or I don't know what you call it anymore, Roberto, because my brain is fried. I will. We've got some prep to do, man. We've got some prep to do, but
we got to do that. We also have dinner to eat, so we got to go.
Yeah, we got to go. We got Montreal playing host to New York City. Airtime for both Roberto and I. Roberto on the Spanish, myself on the English side. 5:45 p.m. Eastern. Earlier kickoff time. They've got these simultaneous kickoffs on Decision Day. And then Matty Lawrence and I will do our NYCFC pregame live, a live stream. That'll be at 5:15 p.m. Eastern, where maybe I'll try to give away more of these. I'm only doing it if you tune in live. That's it, man. I'm sorry. I have to put that rule in. I'm not even making you answer a trivia question. All you got to do is type your name.
Aniello is going to cut us off if we don't leave.
Okay. So for Roberto Abramowitz, I'm Glenn Crooks, and see you, everybody.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.